Alright, so we're going to start with page 264, number 9. It's our proof from the book for the review. So I've got the setup for my proof. I've got my given. And let's label our diagram. So we have AB is congruent to CD. AG is congruent to BE. And then we also know that AG and BE are parallel. So when I see parallel lines, I start thinking, well, I got to find some congruent angles. So if I were to extend these lines, so I'd have AG and BE are parallel. Well, let's look at some angles of our two triangles. And the two triangles I'm talking about would be this guy here and this guy here. Well, I can't, with this angle up here and over here, I can't really get those to be congruent with my parallel lines. These two would by points C and D. Well, I can't get those two to be congruent either. But what I can do is, right here with A and B, I can prove those congruent. Now, if I have this transversal here, what I have are angles A and EBD congruent. So my next step is going to be angle A. I can list that with just one point because that's the only angle associated with that point. Alright, there's no other angles with that vertex. It's congruent to angle EBD. And these are corresponding angles. So parallel lines, then corresponding angles congruent. Alright. So now I have to prove AC congruent to BD. I want to get those two sides to be congruent. Well, I've noticed that since I have AB right here and CD congruent already, well, if I add BC to both of those, I'm going to get a congruent segment. So that's going to mean that this guy here and this guy here are congruent. So I have AB congruent to BD and that is by addition property. And prop. Next step. So, now I can prove my triangle is congruent. I have triangle, let's go with GAC, congruent to triangle EBD. That's my side angle side. SAS. And then I can have CPCTC. Now let's think about this. I want to prove that GC is parallel to ED. So I'm going to try and get rid of some of the stuff that we already know our triangles are congruent. So if I already know that my triangles are congruent, and I want to prove, I'll do this in blue, I want to prove that these two lines are parallel. If I want to prove lines parallel, I want to get some angles to be congruent. So if I look over here, look at this transversal once again. Well, if I can prove that these two angles here and here are congruent, I'm going to get parallel lines because of corresponding angles being congruent. And I can definitely prove that angle GCA and angle D are congruent by CPCTC. So that's what I'm going to do. Angle GCA is congruent to angle D by CPCTC. And lastly, I can prove that my lines GC and ED are parallel because corresponding angles are congruent, then we have parallel lines. Alright, that's it for that one. Next problem we got.